Hey, what's going on, everyone? Do you want to know the single biggest issue in Dead by Daylight right now? I'm going to give you a little hint. It's not tunneling, it's not camping or face camping, it's not whiffing communications, it's not even perks like NOED, Breakable, Dead Hard, Sprint Burst. It's not necessarily the strong meta perks. What it actually is the strength of certain perks. Perks that speed up the game in terms of generator repair time, and perks that slow down the game, also known as slowdown or regression perks. Now, I know some people might not agree with me, and that's fine. This is just my opinion. This is kind of how I've seen the game evolve over the course of the past few years. And I can tell you without a doubt, the perks that affect generator time, whether it be progressing the generator faster than normal, or perks that slow down or regress gens, they're too powerful. They're way, 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 way too powerful. And I think a good solution to changing these perks would actually allow the game to get put on a path for a little bit better balance or sort of balanced state. Now, I'll tell you what a few of these perks look like, at least from the killer point of view. The strongest perks that I usually see in most of my games are Call of Brine, Scourge Hook Pain Resonance, um, Eruption. That perk is just absolutely insane and bonkers. Perks from Survivor like Hyper Focus, Prove Thyself, and primarily toolboxes, albeit not really a perk, but each side right now has so many tools to speed up generator progression from Survivor POV and slow down or halt generator progression from killer POV. It is actually so insane how strong these perks are. And I think honestly, if we saw, and this is kind of like, this is a little bit of my solution to how to fix this, and then maybe what the game could look like going forward, is if we took all slowdown perks from, the killer POV, and we nerf their effectiveness by anywhere between, say, 50 and 80%. I know it's a lot. And then we did the same thing to Survivor, right? We took perks like Prove Thyself, we took toolboxes, and we basically nullified them. We basically made them, their current effectiveness is like 20% of where they're at right now. So they get like an 80% nerf as well. I think what you would see is generator repair times being more centric. They'd be more averaged. Perks really wouldn't affect how fast generators can be done from Survivor, or how fast you can regress them as killer, and you would kind of get to see a little bit more of a narrowing of more of a mean or average of game length. And you could look at stuff like kill rates when you do this, or specific killer performance, and you could start to see, okay, here's if slowdown and speed up perks aren't really an issue anymore because their effectiveness is basically zilch. What is the problem in the game then? Now we can actually look at things like killer powers, if there's still certain maps or tile spawn configurations that are too strong, and not only would this kind of like open up an area for you to look at and see, okay, what's really plaguing DBD right now, you would also get to see maybe more of a variety of builds. Right now I think we're in a current meta where killers feel the need to stack 3 or 4 slowdown every game, and because of that, there's just this circle that keeps happening where survivors keep getting stomped and they never get to escape. So they bring in toolboxes, brand new parts, everything they can, including perk builds, to just slam motors. They don't care about looping, just like killers don't care about mind gaming. That's kind of the meta in DBD right now. It's just a race around the generators, whereas maybe a couple years ago it was more so a skill test of how good you could loop and how good you could sort of manage your resources on certain maps that didn't maybe have as many. I think this would probably be the biggest help to the game, is if we took the power level of the most powerful perks that affected generators on both sides and we brought them down at least 50%. I think perks like Corrupt Intervention and maybe Deadman Switch are probably fine. Maybe their numbers could be tweaked a little bit so they're not active as long. But realistically, primarily from what I see, Call of Brine, Eruption, and Scourge Hook Pain Resonance are just way too strong. I mean, they're basically, for the most part, kind of passive perks. I've always kind of said this, especially with Pain Resonance, is your job as a killer is already to hook survivors. I don't think that perk really requires you to do anything. Obviously, there's a little bit of RNG when it comes to where your hooks are, but I also think the ability for the killer to play around the hook and force trades and get repeated pop value in like the same area of the map maybe next to their generators, is just way, way, way too strong. One little thing that I thought they could do for pain resonance as like a side change to it is make it so that when um, a pain resonance hook is used, then that hook is no longer a scourge hook, and a different hook becomes a scourge hook. So it kind of bops around so you don't sit in the same area. But in general, I honestly think the biggest help to DBD would be to nerf these powerful regression and progression perks and tools and just make them have almost zero impact on the game. They would have a little bit of an impact, maybe, 5 to 10% of generator time overall, but they wouldn't totally dominate a game and allow a killer to pull, a game back where they had one chase and lost 3 gens, and now all of a sudden they get a 4K with 1 or 2 gens left because, they have 3 or 4 slowdown and they're a mobile killer. I just don't think that's really healthy for the game. And one thing I actually thought of for toolboxes is maybe we could just make toolboxes not even affect generators whatsoever. Maybe they could just be used, or there could be a certain toolbox or an add-on that allows you to repair a broken pallet. Any means can obviously pick up a down pallet, but what if a toolbox could just repair a broken pallet and it took you like 30 seconds? Obviously, everyone talks about, okay, well, what about repairing god pallets? I'm just saying, toolboxes could do more. They could sabo hooks for longer. Maybe they could, affect a generator in a different way where it maybe like unblocks a side and allows the generator to be worked on by a different survivor. Like, there's so many different things I think behavior could explore with toolboxes, or at the very least, basically just make them hardly affect the generator progression for a survivor. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. This is just, again, my opinion. I don't really think the issue in DBD right now is primarily killer powers or add-ons or other perks or maps. I think it's just you can see it in the average length of games. I would want to say, if I just throw out a number, I would say probably the average length of games that I encounter, now is probably 10 to 14 minutes. Whereas back in the day, it was a couple of years ago, it was probably closer to 7 to 12, which is kind of huge. Obviously with one of the more recent updates a number of months back, they added 10 seconds to every gen. That's an extra 50 seconds if you want to get out of the game. And a lot of people say, oh, 10 seconds, 10 seconds. That's not that bad. It's only 50 seconds. It doesn't take that long. But think about it like this, right? For every 10 seconds that a generator takes, don't slowdown or regression perks from a killer amplify those 10 seconds. It's pretty much multiplicative. If you're able to affect the progress of a gen as a killer, right? That 10 extra seconds can become 15, 20, 30. Sometimes that 10 seconds can be the difference from that generator getting done and not getting done. And could also, worst case scenario, could mean that generator goes from like 80, 90% almost complete all the way down to 0. Because that's just how strong some of the killer perks are. Not to mention, like, killer got a base buff to kicking generators, but in general, to kind of sum up this video, this is just my belief. I think regression and progression perks and tools are way too strong, and I think if we got a nerf by at least 50% on some of the strongest ones, to where like they had no effect and people would want to run other things like chase perks and aura perks and healing perks, I think DBD could actually work towards a sense of maybe not balance as the community kind of sees it, but less variance in terms of what can happen in the game, which I think a lot of people would love. So that's all I got. Thank you for listening to my rant and my TED Talk, and peace out. See you later.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. That's it, the end of the song. Next time you'll sing along.